Have you ever thought, I've been trying, but I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere? If you've ever wondered whether your small steps are actually making a difference, today's episode is for you. If you're tired of feeling stuck in life and doubting yourself and want simple steps to stop overthinking, gain clarity, and start living your dream, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Sarah Tyke, a midlife mom, chronic overthinker, and your dream activator. I learned the secret of how to overcome self doubt and stop overthinking. Take small, practical steps to create the life you dream of. If you're ready to see the possibilities, transform your mindset, and take the first step forward, grab a pen and a journal and meet me in the Dream Lab. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Reinventing Life After 40. I'm your host, Sarah Tyke. You know, making changes in your life is hard enough. You shouldn't have to do it alone. Instead of trying to stay motivated by yourself, come join my Facebook group, Goal Setting for Overthinkers. It's an easy way to stay encouraged, ask questions, and keep your goals front and center throughout the week. And if you'd like a little encouragement between episodes, I would love to invite you to join my weekly newsletter. Every week, I share practical mindset tips, goal setting ideas, and resources that are designed to help you stop overthinking and take action. You can sign up at sarahtyke.com/newsletter. And on the homepage of sarahtyke.com, there is also a link to join the Facebook group. Okay, today we are going to talk about how to know if you're making progress, even if it doesn't feel like it. You know, you're doing the small steps, you're setting goals, you're doing things, but you still feel like you're not seeing any results. Like you're still not seeing progress, you're not going anywhere, but you're still doing the things. So, first of all, I would just like to say that this is something that I go through on almost a weekly basis when I do these podcast episodes. I love doing them, and I think I've mentioned I've taken a podcasting course, and so they have a checklist of things to do to increase your chances of being found, like through SEO and having the newsletter and the Facebook group and different social media posts and these things. And I'm doing them, but I'm not really getting any results. Like I don't really have a large audience. I don't have, the newsletter subscribers. I don't have a big Facebook group, but I'm still showing up to do the things and I love doing them. And so when I started with podcasting, I didn't know anything about podcasting. Honestly, I can't stand the sound of my own voice. So I'm like, how would anybody else want to listen to me? But also, so I had just tried it out. I just tried recording. I just tried posting something. I loved it. I loved the fact that I could use a platform to teach people. This is when I was doing astronomy. So I was able to teach astronomy in the way that I wanted, which meant no like state approved curriculum because I don't want to stick to a textbook when I was teaching astronomy because there's so much more beyond the textbook. And I wanted to cover all this weird stuff, the alternative theories, and just do it in a way that wasn't so rigid and structured. And podcasting was a way to do that. And so I was like, well, I just love doing it, so I'm just going to keep doing it. And I had a few listeners and a few comments here and there, and it was fun. And then when I switched over to this, kind of this track, this topic, I have to go through that same kind of doubt again. Is anyone going to listen? Am I really helping anyone? Is this doing anything? Is this going anywhere? And I don't know. I see that there are people that listen, so thank you guys. I love it because even if there's one person out there, I don't care. Then I'm just talking to you. And then it's just you and me. If it's just one person, that's fine. So you just have to get to a point where even if you don't see results with what you're doing, just really ask yourself, are you getting anything from it personally? Does it bring you joy or peace or comfort to be doing this thing that you're working on? And if it's yes in any amount, then you are making progress. You are doing something worthwhile that you should continue doing. So there are other ways to measure success, because pretty much any endeavor that you're going to do is going to take consistency, and you're going to have to just keep showing up and keep doing steps, even if it doesn't feel like you're going anywhere. So instead of focusing on kind of the physical or the material rewards or outcomes, like more money, more downloads, more viewers, the perfect painting or speaking the language fluently. Instead of those types of things, focus on what you have become by going through this process or trying to do a new thing, to learn a new skill. For me, I have become more confident when I'm recording. I've always loved public speaking, so that's not really been the issue. And I think that's why when I was recording, I was like, well, I can't do much about my voice. This is what God gave me. I literally cannot change my voice. So if people don't like it, they don't have to listen. But I was a TA for a while in grad school, and I've always loved public speaking, even when I was, younger. Um, so that's not been too much of an issue, but I've never really liked recording myself. And I don't do a whole lot of editing or listening to the episodes. Hopefully that doesn't show through, but I pretty much just hit record and then publish what I have. I do a little bit of editing to make it not so painful on you guys. But I think, as I've gone through the different changes of podcasting topics, I've become clearer in my message and what I want to be teaching and talking about. It's no longer astronomy or alternative science. Now I'm kind of more in the self-help kind of problem solving area. Not self-help, I guess. I mean, hopefully I'm helping you guys, not just myself. This is helping me quite a bit, if you didn't know, but I would love to know that I'm helping you guys, and hopefully I am. So there's more things that I am changing in that are kind of the measures of success. So even if I have a small audience, even if I never make it into, the number one podcast in the world or anything like that, it doesn't matter, because the real success is in me and how I've changed and what I've learned through the process of taking these small steps and just keeping going every week. So this idea of, a get rich quick scheme where you kind of want this overnight success and you want success to happen now, it's actually not biblical. In Proverbs 13:11, we read, "Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it." And the Bible is certainly not against wealth and prosperity. It's mentioned several times that a good man will give an inheritance to his children's children. So you are meant to have wealth that you can pass on, not just to your children, but to your grandchildren. So it's certainly not a bad thing biblically to have wealth. That was encouraged. But it was encouraged that you get it through your own labor, through working for it and being honest about it, and little by little, slowly, steadily gaining the wealth. So overnight success, and I mean, it could happen, sure, but I think too many times maybe we get caught up in the excitement and we want to see the results now. I think sometimes we're a little impatient, and I understand that because I feel like I've gotten into the game of podcasting, and if I'm going to go the route, I'm sorry guys, it's a little bit early here for me. If I go the route of coaching, I feel like I've kind of gotten into it too late. I'm in my mid 40s. I still kind of deal with that. Is it too late for me? I know it isn't, but there's still that part of me that says, is it maybe? Because I'm not seeing, the results as fast enough as I want. But again, we have to also remember that we are on God's timeline, not ours. And God can't go wrong. He won't steer you wrong. So just keep doing those small steps and find different ways to measure your success, which is what we're going to talk about next. So, point one, we tend to measure progress by external results because it's very easy to count your downloads, your followers, if you've been promoted, dollar signs, the bank account. It's easy to see all those things. And traditionally, that's just what we call success. Or, hey, I've mastered this language. I've made the perfect painting, or I was able to make a dress. When you're learning these new skills, it takes time. But we are measuring progress by external results. And so we just want to see, kind of get that dopamine or that endorphin hit of seeing that physical external result of what we consider success. But that also can be very disappointing if you don't see those external results, even though you are making progress. So ask yourself, who am I becoming while I work toward this goal? So notice if you have mood changes. Maybe are you happier doing this new project, learning this new skill? Do you have more peace, more calm? Maybe you have increased confidence, either in the skill that you're learning or in other areas of your life. Because sometimes when you learn something new, it gives you a sense of confidence in other areas of your life because you can tell yourself, like, well, I did this. This was difficult and I did it. So that means I can do hard things. And then that can translate over into other areas of your life. Maybe whatever goal you're working on gives you increased energy because a lot of times when you are doing something that you love, you feel very energized. Sure, it's not a dollar sign, but feeling energized and full of life, and you just can't wait to start the day to get back into whatever it is you're learning, I think that's probably worth more than a dollar sign. So those are a couple ways to consider kind of like non-external measurements of success. Point two, consistency compounds over time. So the most meaningful changes are often invisible before they're obvious. So you're making the changes, but you just don't see them until it's like further down the road. It's a bigger thing. Maybe even you look back and be like, oh yeah, I did change. I did have that success. I just didn't notice it at the time. So if you're like planting a garden, you know that when you put the seeds in the ground, nothing happens for a while. You still have to water them and give them the light and the warmth. And eventually you'll see a sprout. But even right then, okay, it's a sprout, it's not the full-grown plant yet. You still can't harvest anything. That takes time. You still have to wait for the plant to grow up and you still have to take care of it. You have to still keep watering it and sheltering it from extreme sun or wind or cold or whatever it might be. But eventually, if you do all the things, you keep showing up for this plant and this garden, eventually it will take hold and you will see the result being, beautiful flowers or an actual harvest of vegetables. But it takes time. If you're learning an instrument or almost any new skill, painting, sewing, woodworking, learning a new language, you don't start out opening up the book or taking the instrument out of the case and just playing. You have to learn how to, like with an instrument, you have to learn like the first note. You have to, first of all, you have to learn how to read music too. So that's, kind of step one if you have never done that. But these little things, and so you're like, okay, well, I've been trying to learn music for a month now and I still can't, play Flight of the Bumblebee. Well, that's because it takes time to get to the point where you can play, scales as 30-second notes or whatever that one is. But you've still learned something. You still know how to, maybe read the notes on the scale. Maybe you can play a few notes on your instrument. I mean, that's progress. Yeah, you're not in a symphony or an orchestra on day 1 or day 30 or day 60 probably. But you are getting there. You look back and you see how you've progressed, even if it's just, oh, now I can read music and now I know what this note means. It's a solid black note with a line through it. I know what that means now. That's progress. Exercising, anytime you are trying to either gain strength, you're losing weight, changing body composition, that takes time. You can't do one workout, you can't go for one walk and expect to have lost 15 pounds and have built muscle mass. And it takes time. But doing that one walk every day, that will compound over time, because you're not going to lose the 15 pounds by not doing anything, but you're not going to lose it from doing one walk or doing one walk per week. You're going to have to be a little more consistent. You're going to have to keep doing those small steps, but they will add up. And if you want to see how steps add up, if you have a Fitbit or whatever step counter you like, you can really see it literally physically how steps add up throughout the day. So similarly, you have to take those kind of small steps in whatever you're learning, even if it's relationships. If you're trying to build a friendship with someone or repair a friendship, it doesn't happen overnight. Usually, I would say there are sometimes, depending on who the person is, sometimes all it takes is, an apology or something, reaching out. But if it's somebody new that you've just met, it might take some time to get to know the person, and just build a friendship with them. But you still have to show up and do little things like just saying hi to them when you see them at work in the hallway, and then maybe asking them a little bit about themselves. It's just little things. But you're never going to be friends with them if you don't do any of that. And it's just going to take some time with these little steps that, if you keep doing it over time, those little steps add up into the result that you're looking for. Point 3, celebrate evidence, not perfection. So small wins reinforce motivation. So whenever you have a small win, like just completing a small step, celebrate it somehow. Take time to acknowledge it and to tell yourself, hey, look what I did. Tell a friend or family member, I did this thing. And I know it's a small thing, but I did it. And now I'm going to do the next small thing. So every time you complete something small, take time to notice it. It doesn't have to be a big celebration. I'm not asking you to go out and have a party every single time you do something small, but at least take time to yourself to recognize that you did it, that you completed the imperfect painting, or you published the imperfect podcast episode. You sent your book manuscript to a publisher. Maybe it's your first one. It's not going to be perfect. Maybe it doesn't get accepted, but you did it. You completed, the first paragraph of your new book. You learned how to say, hi, how are you in the new language. They're small things, but they're meaningful. So anytime you have a small win, make sure you celebrate it. Take time to recognize that you did something that furthered your goal to create this life that you are dreaming of. So at the end of each week, try writing down 3 ways that you made progress. Even if you haven't reached that end goal, if your overall outcome hasn't changed, still write down 3 things that you've done, even if it's just one thing over the week, just something to show that you've made progress on it. And then be proud of yourself for making the progress, for showing up and doing something to make progress, because it will add up. So along this vein, I keep an exercise log. I don't really do body weight or measurements anymore. Numbers can be useful to an extent because it does help to know where your starting point is. So, at some point I'll weigh myself, but I don't keep doing it. I know some people will weigh themselves every day or every week. I can't do it. I did for a while because I tried it out, because some people are like, oh, it keeps you accountable. But for me, I obsess over the numbers. I get really into numbers. And then I end up tying my self-worth to them. So I'm a good person if the weight is low, and I'm a bad person if it's high. And I just couldn't keep doing that because it's so depressing and so draining when you don't see that number on the scale move. So I just stopped doing it. I'll weigh myself once, and then maybe months later, just essentially just to keep a track for health purposes, just to see, am I increasing year over year? So I just record my workouts on a calendar. Did I exercise today I try to do 30 minutes, 4 days a week. And I just write that on my calendar. And so that becomes my progress tracker, not weight or measurement or how many calories I ate. It's just, did I exercise today? And if I did, all right, success, I did it. And so when I see the workouts on my calendar adding up over the week or the month, that's what motivates me. And then I feel like, wow, look at this. I worked out every day this week. I worked out 4 days. I got 30-minute exercise blocks 4 days a week. And then I feel really good about myself. And then I'm like, okay, next week, let's do the same thing. So that becomes my success, is how many workouts did I do? And then the numbers just, it doesn't matter to me anymore. So it's things like that. So you don't necessarily have to keep track of your success in the traditional way of how much do I weigh, or how many subscribers do I have, or how fluent am I, how many songs can I play, how many complicated symphony level songs can I play in my new instrument. Don't worry about any of that stuff. Just record your small wins. Some small step you took this week. I learned a new note. I learned a new word. I learned how to sew a new thing. Just simple steps, and that encouragement will then motivate you to do more. All right, this week, your homework is to start a progress list instead of a to-do list. So we all love to-do lists, at least I do, because I love checklists. I love checking things off of lists. But instead, let's do a progress list. So every Friday at the end of the week, whenever your week ends, write 3 answers to these questions, or answer these 3 questions. What did I learn this week? What did I try? And what did I do that my past self wouldn't have done? And then try to have one new thing each week. So you can build on that same big picture goal, but every week you're doing something new to get toward that goal. So for example, if your big picture goal is, I want to sell my handmade goods, whatever that may be, whether it's baked goods, something you have crocheted, sewn, woodworking, painting, whatever it is, something you made, you want to sell it. So that's your big picture goal. So at the end of this week, you could write down, what did I learn this week? I learned, where do people usually sell homemade stuff? So you went online, you searched for where to sell homemade stuff, and you found some options. What did I try? I tried making enough things to sell at wherever I want to sell it. Bake sale, farmer's market, yard sale, posting it on eBay or Etsy or wherever people sell stuff. You tried making enough things to sell. Because if you're going to sell something, you probably have to have more than one thing to sell, in my experience. What did I do that my past self wouldn't have done? I seriously considered turning my hobby into a business. Or maybe you just write down what I did that my past self wouldn't have done. Maybe that is simply, I believed in myself. That's a step 2. Finally believing in yourself. So that would be at the end of your first week. And then the next week you build on those steps. So what did I learn this week? This would be your second week. I learned that online is the better place for me to sell than like a brick and mortar store. What did I try? I tried brainstorming names for my Etsy shop and researching how to set it up. What I did that my past self wouldn't have done? I took concrete steps toward starting my business. I found a name and I found a place to sell. Those are 2 concrete steps. And then the next week you would build on those, and so on. And then while you are working on these progress steps, think about this question. If I stopped measuring success by results alone, how would I know I'm growing? So what other things can you look at to measure your progress rather than like those physical, tangible end results that we've talked about, like money or followers or having a perfect painting or a perfect language or a perfectly sewn dress or a perfect table that you built? I mean, if those results didn't really matter, what else could you say? How else would you know that you're growing and being successful. All right, to recap. 1, progress isn't always visible. It's often in ways that you are changing internally. 2, small actions compound over time. And 3, success isn't only about what you've achieved, it's also about who you are becoming. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. If you liked this episode, please follow the podcast. Please share it with a friend. If you know someone who's maybe been feeling discouraged because their progress seems slow, please share this episode with them. And again, if you want some weekly encouragement, you can sign up for the newsletter. You can sign up or join the Facebook group where we have some goal setting tips in there. We have some accountability. You can ask me questions in there. Both of those things, the newsletter and the Facebook group, you can find links to on sarahtyke.com. All right, guys, I will talk to you next week. Thank you for listening. Bye. Hi, friend. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who may want to get inspired to start living their dream? Also, please leave a review wherever you're listening. It lights me up to know that this podcast is helping you. Take a step forward today. It doesn't have to be big, but it does have to be done. I'll meet you back here next week for another episode. Bye.